All right, let's get right into it. We're about to pull back the curtain on the secret history of something that, well, pretty much runs our entire world, computer programming. And its origin story? It begins somewhere you would never, ever guess.
Yeah, you heard that right. That incredibly complex, super logical, foundational work of making machines do things, for a long time, that was seen as women's work, kind of like typing, or filing, or even weaving.
But then, something funny happened. That clerical work suddenly became critical. It became prestigious. It became powerful. And, when power walks into a room, history has this really nasty habit of showing certain people the door. So the big question is, how on earth did we get from that to where we are today?
Okay, to really get this, we have to go way back, like way, way back. Forget Silicon Valley. We're talking about a time before computers even had screens. Let's talk about the original coders.
And look, this wasn't just some one-off thing. It was a real lineage. It all kicks off way back in 1843 with Ada Lovelace. I mean, she looks at this mechanical calculator and sees the future. She realized a machine like that could manipulate any symbol, not just numbers. In essence, she wrote the very first piece of software, a full 100 years before there was even a machine that could run it. Now, let's jump ahead to 1945. This was when we meet the ENIAC 6, the team of women who programmed the first truly modern computer.
So what did these women actually do? Because let's be super clear, they weren't just pushing buttons on some machine. No, they were literally inventing the entire science of programming, from scratch.
And what's just mind-blowing is how the people in charge saw their work. The official U.S. Army job title for what they were doing? Sub-professional clerical work. Can you believe that? They looked at this incredibly deep, logical work and basically called it filing. They figured the real genius was in building the hardware, the machine itself. Telling it what to do, that was just secretarial stuff. Boy, were they wrong.
I mean, the disconnect is just staggering, right? Their job is classified as clerical, but what are they actually doing? Oh, just creating the entire foundation of computer science. Think about it. There were no programming languages to use, no manuals to look up. They had to invent everything. They came up with the idea of loops for repeating tasks. They created subroutines to keep code organized. Heck, they were the world's very first debuggers, hunting down problems. They didn't have a manual. They were the manual.
Okay, so if women were the pioneers, literally inventing the field from the ground up, what happened? Where did they go? This question leads us right to a huge historical turning point, the Great Prestige Shift.
So what changed? How do you get from women physically wiring up the first computers to the tech industry we know today? What was the big catalyst? Well, it comes down to one massive thing, the Cold War. All of a sudden, computers weren't just for figuring out artillery tables anymore. Now we're talking missile trajectories, space exploration, national survival. Software became this critical make-or-break point of failure. Think about it. If the code crashed, the rocket crashed. The stakes just went through the roof.
And you know what happens when the stakes get that high, right? The prestige follows, and so does the money. A lot of money. Programming became essential for these huge, multi-million-dollar projects, both for the government and big companies. So the salaries just exploded. The job wasn't just important anymore, it was incredibly lucrative.
And this is where we see a total rebranding of the entire profession. It's night and day. It goes from being seen as sub-professional, clerical work, perfect for women with dexterity and patience, to this prestigious new thing called software engineering. And the industry started actively marketing it to men, even creating these personality tests to find guys with a very specific psychological profile. They were basically building a new gate and locking it behind them, shutting out the very women who built the house in the first place.
But here's the thing. This wasn't just some slow, accidental cultural shift. As we're about to see, it was something much more deliberate. This was an active, conscious erasure of history.
And I really want to be clear about this. This was not an accident. It wasn't a coincidence. The women who pioneered programming were being systematically written out of their own story, and it was happening in real time as the first histories of computing were being written.
I mean, this quote is it's unbelievable. When reporters would show up to see this revolutionary new machine, the ENIAC, the women who actually programmed it, they were treated like props. In the newspaper photos, they were captioned as models, just there to make the machine look good. They were even called refrigerator ladies, like the models who would pose next to a new fridge in an ad.
Their actual genius was completely, totally invisible to the people writing the story. And if you're looking for the smoking gun, well, this is it. It doesn't get much clearer than this. Take a look at the original photograph. You see two women hard at work in a computer lab. Now look at the version that was published in a history book years later. Same photo, but the women are just gone. They've been completely cropped out. All that's left is the machine. They were literally physically cut out of their own history.
So what's the fallout from all this? What's the legacy of this erasure? That brings us to our final thought here, the ghost in the machine, where we connect this hidden history to the world we're all living in right now.
So why does any of this matter today? Well, because the stories we tell shape our reality. By erasing the original women who coded, a whole new story could take its place, the myth of the male computer genius. And it worked. By the 1980s, personal computers were being sold almost exclusively to boys. The whole bro-grammer stereotype, the idea of the awkward male computer nerd, all of that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's one that has defined the tech industry for decades.
And that really leaves us with a final, kind of haunting thought, doesn't it? Our technology, it remembers everything. Every single command, every algorithm, every last line of code is stored perfectly. But its memory of the actual human beings who gave it life, who breathed the logic into it in the first place, that memory is terribly, terribly flawed.